If you're an African parent living in Scandinavia, this story might scare you because Binta and Caleb did not think they were criminals. No, not at all. They thought they were raising a child, and they thought they need to discipline the child so that the child will not become war at the end of the day. And in the morning of that same day, the system decided otherwise. And what did the system do to them? The system took that same son, the only son that they had, took it away from them. Let's talk about what really happened to this family. Caleb and Binta were the success story of our time. 5 years in Oslo. He was also in a construction company. This our brother worked very, very hard. That is Mr. Caleb. But, at the end of the day, he got a good pay. Binta was in a care home, the kind of woman who treats every elder patient like her own father. They weren't illegal. They weren't even living in the shadow. They paid their taxes. They shoveled snow every now and then when there's snow in Norway. As a matter of fact, they posted "God is faithful" photos on their Facebook wearing a puffer jacket. That is Samuel. And Samuel was 8 years old. He was the pride of their family. He spoke Norwegian more than the Igbo language. Sometimes they have to remind him, "You are an Igbo man. Come on, speak Igbo language." But here's the bitter truth. In the West, you can be a modest citizen and still misunderstand the rules inside your own house. They thought they were safe because they followed the traffic light and the rules in Norway. They didn't know that in Scandinavia, the most serious risk in your home could be something as little as belts. You know that belt what we say we put, for our trouser. It all started with a small lie. A small lie. Because the 8-year-old son of this family now, maybe, something happened about his homework. Maybe about, his broken toy. Or maybe, he did not clear the table after the dinner. Caleb came home tired. You know that kind of tired where the cold will enter your bone. And even your boss was breathing down on your neck when you were at work. Then the son was lying koro in his face. And in Caleb's mind, come on, I'm not going to be a monster here. And Caleb took the belt and pam, to spin this boy. He didn't leave a mark. He didn't even draw any blood from his son. It was just a correction. That same correction that the dad gave him when he was in Enugu. That same correction, that he got when he was in boarding house. And the correction that made him who he is today. The next day, Samuel goes to school. He was talking to his teacher, not crying, just chatting one-on-one with his teacher. And he said, "My dad used belts on me yesterday." In Nigeria, the teacher might call the dad and say, "Yes, it was not yesterday, isn't it?" But in Norway, the teacher is a mandatory reporter. They don't, debate culture here. They follow procedure. They are required by law to report physical punishment. Then the clock started ticking. Tack, tack, tack on Caleb's and Binta's head. By 6-7 a.m. in the morning, there was a knock on their door. Ko. Benevolent people, they walked in. That is the Norwegian Social Welfare Services. They came knocking on their door. They don't argue. They don't even shout. They ask calm questions. And they said, "Has your son been physically disciplined?" Binta, being honest, says, "Yes, we corrected him yesterday. He was naughty, but, it's fine. Yeah, we only corrected just, But Caleb, being a proud dad, being a dogbu, says, "Yes, in my culture, we discipline our children. Otherwise, our children will become war. We always discipline them when they messed up." In that moment, they were speaking from culture to a system that operates strictly by written law. By 2 p.m. that day, Samuel wasn't at the school gate. He was placed in an emergency temporary foster arrangement while the case was assessed. It's just temporary. When Binta asked the teacher, "No, we'll just put Samuel. No, Samuel will come back home. A few days." But temporary can sometimes become long time, depending on the court's findings. The house went silent. The toy stays on the floor. The Igbo language stopped echoing in the hallway because if Samuel is there, then Caleb, the dad, will be shouting, "Bianeba, umbano." But there was nothing like that. This is where the tragedy now turns into a master class. Binta stopped hitting because Binta was sad, while Caleb was saying, no, it's discrimination. They just want to take our child away from us. As a matter of fact, they get money when they took our child away from us. But their lawyer sat them down and lectured them and gave them the cold, the bitter, the reality of life. Norway has zero tolerance for corporal punishment. Corporal punishment equals abuse under Norwegian law. Intent does not change the legal definition. Culture is not a legal defense. The court did not ask if they loved Samuel. The court asked, can these parents adapt to Norwegian parenting standards? That was the question that the court was asking their lawyer. They were now ordered to a parenting class. They need to go to class. They will teach them how to handle children in Norway. And also, they're going to give them supervised visit. And that is only 1 hour, but twice a week with a social worker present, even when they hug their son. And the most painful part of the whole matter is that Samuel now began to adjust to his new environment. He became quieter during visits. He started speaking less Igbo language. And as a matter of fact, the distance was no longer a physical one. It was now an emotional one. As a matter of fact, Samuel stopped calling his dad, Dad. He started calling him Caleb now. My people, hear me. I'm not saying Caleb was right using a belt. I'm saying when you cross border, your cultural method should be left over back to Nigeria. If you live in Scandinavia, the UK, or even in Canada, please, please and please, the states there prioritize the child's welfare above all other things. And also lower your pride. If authority knock on your door, please do not argue culture. Do not argue culture. Ask for legal advice. And also don't forget to adapt, or you're going to lose. You cannot use 1980 Nigerian discipline method in 2026 Norway. You can't use it though. The outcome will not favor you and it might be a disaster. Binta and Caleb are still fighting. The bed is still empty. Samuel is growing up in different environment from the one his parents imagined. Was it worth that correction that day? I want to hear from you guys. Or is the Norwegian system too rigid? Or did Caleb Gagan himself fail to understand the law of the country he chose to live in? If you live in Scandinavia, please, has this happened to someone you know before? Or has it even happened to you? Drop your experience below. No insult, please. And don't forget, this is African Black Gold TV, where we teach ourselves the good. I'll see you guys in the next video. And, I quit.